Pioneer viewers, how are you doing? I hope you're healthy and well. As the Pioneer team, we continue to share our report on Russia-Ukraine war with you. In a moment, we will share with you an interesting development related to the front line. As we have stated many times in our previous reports, one of Russia's main export items is oil. Russia's oil assets are of great importance, and at the moment, the Russian Federation is facing the reality of sanctions. Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, who made a big mistake by starting the war, has left Russia facing the reality of this embargo. Russia's oil resources are also important for the countries of the world, and Russia is also counting on this because oil is not found in every country, but Russia threatens the world with these natural resources. But the Ukrainian armed forces also see this threat and are increasing it. It is like a gambling table, and in recent days, Ukrainian armed forces have once again targeted Russian oil refineries. So what are the developments on this issue? Let's analyze it together. Before we start our report, I need to make a small reminder. As a Pioneer team, we continue to bring you developments regarding Russia-Ukraine war, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. I also read all of your comments on our videos, so please continue to express your opinions about our content in the comments. Let's start if you are ready, because the Pioneer reports. During the war, economic resources and returns take on a greater importance. If these resources are threatened with destruction in any way, an army faces the risk of total annihilation, because war is no longer a phenomenon where only manpower can win. And defeating a country is not only possible on the battlefield. You can defeat a country in the economy, in the education, and even in foreign policy. This was clearly demonstrated during the Russia-Ukraine war, and the Russian leadership was very wrong in thinking that the military superiority of the Russian army would destroy Ukraine in a short time, because Ukraine was not collapsing. Ukraine is resisting the Russian occupation with its all might, and on the other hand, it was trying to eliminate the factors that caused the Russian occupation. So, since the beginning of the war, the Ukrainian army has an important advantage. The advantage is unmanned aerial vehicles. This innovation that the Ukrainian armed forces have brought to the world of the warfare has caused major changes on the front line. On many occasions, drones have given the Ukrainian army an incredible advantage, and Russia, on the other hand, has been late to catch up with this technology and has not been able to utilize drone technologies adequately. Recently, unmanned aerial vehicles of the Ukrainian armed forces took the air once again, and their target was the Russian oil refinery. As we mentioned at the beginning of our report, Russia's oil production is of a vital importance for Russia. If this oil production is not sufficient, all the conditions are in a place for a complete collapse of the Russian economy, which is facing severe sanctions. This is what the Ukrainian armed forces are aiming for. According to regional sources, unmanned aerial vehicles of the Ukrainian armed forces have mobilized to launch an attack on oil refineries in the southern Russia. In our previous report, I have shared with you the developments on this issue. Most of the attacks of the Ukrainian armed forces into Russian airspace cannot be prevented by Russian air defense systems, and this situation is already exposing the Russian military to great criticism. According to the latest data, drones of the Ukrainian armed forces targeted the Kubiashev oil refinery in the Samara region of Russia. As a result of the successful attack by the Ukrainian armed forces, the oil refinery was heavily damaged. Local sources have publicized that there were many large explosions in the region, and the Russian war leadership was ashamed of not being able to prevent another attack by the Ukrainian armed forces. Moreover, the Russian war leadership had recently claimed that all the efforts would be made to end these attacks. So once again, the Russian leadership has deceived the Russian people. According to the information obtained from regional sources, the refinery was heavily damaged when the unmanned aerial vehicles of the Ukrainian armed forces hit the refinery. It is reported that quite strong explosions occurred in this oil refinery, and it is also reported that the oil in the production phase in the refinery were created with the explosions and a big fire occurred. So far, Russian official sources have not made any statements on this subject, and this is a situation we usually witness now because Russian official sources prefer to remain silent after successful attacks by the Ukrainian armed forces, and this is an attempt to downplay the situation. In this way, the Russian leadership pretends to underestimate and downplay the successes of the Ukrainian army. But this is, of course, a big lie because in the terms of blows to the Russian regime, the most effective actions taken by the Ukrainian armed forces are those aimed at the Russian economy. Therefore, we can say that the Russian silence here will not in any way achieve the desired goal of minimization. So while the Russian official sources remain silent, Russian unofficial sources are venting their anger at both the war leadership and the political leadership. As you know, these unofficial sources are of a great importance in the Russian war effort. They were an important part of convincing the Russian public about the war. However, they too have lost their persuasiveness. Recently, the Russian unofficial sources published a remarkable statement about the attack, and the statement read as follows. So the war leadership seems to enjoy making the same mistakes over and over again, and we have warned them before that the Russian territory is under threat. So why did we start the war? Isn't it to keep this threat at bay? But the threat is closer than ever. And how are the air defense systems doing? Are they any good? Why can't they destroy enemy drones? All they provide is pretty pictures, and they don't do anything else. The enemy's drones quite routinely and easily penetrate our borders and strikes our territory. The war leadership must urgently take more measures, and Russia has not a ruble left to lose. So, as we can see, there is a palpable anger in the Russian sources. Criticisms, on the other hand, takes the forms we have seen before, and Russian sources point to the inadequacy of the Russian air defense systems and make a crucial observation about the Russian economy. The Russian Federation may indeed not even have a ruble to spend, and these attacks by the Ukrainian armed forces are economically functional targets inside the Russian Federation are a major factor in this. In addition, the Russian government's endless spending is one of the factors causing Russia's economy to deteriorate every day. So what do you think? How effective do you think the unmanned drone strikes carried out by the Ukrainian armed forces? Why are the Russian defense failing? And what do you think about the recent attacks by the Ukrainian army on the Russian oil refinery? So do you think that the Russian sources can stage an uprising against Putin? Why is Russian Federation silent about these attacks, and do you think the reason for this silence is psychological? Let me know in the comments, because you know that I read and I care about all of your comments.